Well, this is definitely a weird one. You've been warned. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Josh, and today we're going to be talking about Eileen. This is a new R-rated psychological thriller that comes to us from William Oldroyd, who I have never heard of before. Before I start talking about the film itself, I do want to mention that this is an adaptation of a novel by the same name, although the author's name is currently escaping me. I always feel it's necessary to give you a disclaimer that I have not read the book, so I'm unable to tell you how accurate this is to its source material. Actually, now that I think of it, this actually is a part of an established universe. And by that I mean the Thomasin McKenzie fantasizing over a glamorous blonde woman in the 60s universe. For those who don't know, I'm talking about 2021's Last Night in Soho, which had a very similar overall premise. This is a very different film though, I'll make that clear right from the get-go. In here we follow Eileen, who is a young woman in her 20s who works at a corrections facility for teenage boys. Which is ironic considering she clearly has some serious psychological issues herself. She daydreams quite frequently, sometimes about really dark things like killing herself and killing her emotionally abusive alcoholic father, and also fantasizing about coworkers, sometimes to the point of masturbating while on the job. I did warn you this is a weird one, although we do learn some of the motivations behind these characters as the film goes along and things are revealed. Shortly after being introduced to Eileen, this new psychologist is hired at the facility played by Anne Hathaway, and her name is Rebecca, and instantly she draws the attention of Eileen as well as the viewer, because this movie has a very grungy 60s noir feel to it, not just in the visuals but also in the soundtrack. So as soon as Anne Hathaway steps into frame, I don't know, the fact that they gave her such a very accentuated look helps to put you in Eileen's perspective as a viewer. But I do want to touch on the technical elements here for a second, because it is very moody in the visuals and the soundtrack, which is very minimalistic. I really dig movies that feel like they exist in the time period that they're set in. And as such, this really feels like a grungy corner of 1960s Massachusetts. Also, a lot of this film hinges on the two performances of the lead actresses, and both of them are great. Thomasin McKenzie first caught my eye in Jojo Rabbit, which was one of my favorite films of 2019. She was also great in Last Night in Soho. Anne Hathaway, though, she definitely commands the screen too. There's a touch of homoeroticism to the relationship between these two characters. I do wish it was fleshed out more, and we'll get to more of that in a second. But the performances are captivating. They make up for when the story is dragging a little bit. And this is only a 96-minute film, but it does feel a bit incomplete. You can absolutely tell that this is a condensed version of a much deeper story with more characterization and self-reflection. I mean, rarely is a novel going to translate to a 90-minute film without feeling like it has some holes in it. Although some layers are pulled back over the course of the movie, I still don't feel like I fully understood what motivates both of these characters. I was still very interested in the themes of self-liberation, parenthood, and some of the other horrifically dark stuff that unfolds in the third act. And it's not that it doesn't work. It does work as its own self-contained story, but I think it could have been so much better if there was more time spent with these two characters building up to that third act, because I would imagine there's a lot more subtext in the novel that they just didn't have time to flesh out here. Again though, the fact that both of the performances are consistently captivating is what allows this film to still be entertaining. The third act though, there's really no other way to describe it other than it goes from 0 to 100 real quick, which definitely leaves it feeling a little bit sloppily paced. And I know it sounds like I'm being very vague about the specific story elements, but it's because I don't want to spoil it. It is a straightforward story, and I think you're best off going into it knowing as little as possible. Overall, I think it works well enough. If you're into psychological thrillers, if you're into film noir, go and check this out. I think you'll find it entertaining, but don't expect to be blown away or anything. There's no twist in here that was absolutely earth-shattering to me, but it does go to some very dark places and introduces some themes that, again, I wish were better fleshed out, but I enjoyed spending time in this story. It almost feels like a TV show pilot, if that makes any sense, because where this ends, I feel like you could add a whole nother like 10 episodes worth of story for these two characters, and I would watch the hell out of that. But as a self-contained story, I'm gonna give Eileen 3 out of 5 stars. If you see it, be sure to let me know in the comments what you thought of it. While you're at it, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Next week we'll be talking about Paul King's Wonka, so that'll be an interesting one for sure. I'll catch you guys then. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you later.